Hello, my friends, and welcome back. Happy Wednesday to all of you. I hope that you're having a great week so far, and I'm so happy that you could be here to spend some time with me today. I hope you all enjoyed a really special Christmas holiday and that we are all equally blessed in 2022. So for today's project, we are continuing on with our Crash Your Stash series, and this project is a request from some peeps who wrote into me after I shared this book that was bound with a spiral binding and asked me if I could share it again, but this time use the rings that I had suggested in that video. And so this is another good opportunity for me to kind of answer some of the special requests that you guys have sent in, and so I am going to do that. And also, this book is a revisit a holiday collection, but not use it for a holiday project. So I'm pretty excited about this, and I hope you are as well. Stick with me and we will make this together. For our project today, our stash collection is going to be this Harvest Meadow, and this is a Hot by Paper pad from Michaels. Now, I originally picked this up. It is intended to be a Thanksgiving or fall themed collection, and all of the journal cards are definitely holiday inspired, but a lot of the paper in this paper pad has just really beautiful boho inspired florals. There are beautiful, warm, rich colors and patterns that do not necessarily read as Thanksgiving. Now, some of them do have pumpkins, and the journal cards did definitely remind me of holiday, but there are just a lot of beautiful patterns in here that are working really well for my project today. Now, oftentimes when you see a value paper pad, you assume that because it is a single-sided paper that it might be thin, but this particular one is really nice and thick. So I was definitely happy to pull this one out of my stash and give it new life. So we're basically going to be working with the same measurements for our original base design. It was really easy to create and it went pretty quickly. I'm just going to share it again because we do have quite a few new viewers. And I'll let you know too, before I get started, that this is 80-pound cardstock. So this is a beautiful, solid core, rich navy color, and I am using this because I really want my book to be very sturdy and thick. So there are only 2 page types. The first one, I'm cutting my page to be 11 by 6, and then I'm coming in and scoring it at 6. So we're going to have a finished book size that is 6-inch square, and then this will be a flap. We can add a whole lot of extra patterns and have more space inside our book when we finish it. It is important to know that this right here is where the holes will be punched. So in the original one, I did use a spiral. For today's project, we're going to use the rings, and I just made a little template here so that I can hold it up to my book and punch all those holes throughout and put them on the rings. So you do need this space here so that your flap will open. The second page is going to be for the pocket, and so I am taking a piece of the same blue cardstock, and it is 7 inches by 8.5. I scored it at 6, I turned it, and I scored it at 6. So we still have the footprint of the 6 by 6, that will be the finished book size. And then I came in and removed the excess. So there would have been this all the way up. I cut it at the score line, and then I cut it at the score line again. And so we're gonna get a nice, generous 2.5-inch pocket. The one side will stay open, but the rings will keep it tight to the base. And then I went ahead and just nipped off the corner that was on this blue piece here. And before we start to assemble a pocket, you do want to add the inside first because it's difficult to get that paper into the book if you don't have access to the whole page. So here's one of those patterns, and like I mentioned, it did work beautifully for fall, but I think it's just absolutely gorgeous, and it does not have to be for the holiday. So I think you guys all remember, if you saw my other videos, we had quite a lot going on this year around Thanksgiving, lots of weddings and parties and a trip out of state. So I didn't get to create as many fall inspired projects as I would have liked. So it does make me happy to get some additional use out of this. I'm going to add this beautiful warm mustardy yellow, and I will layer some additional pieces on it when we finish the front of the book. But for now, this is the pattern paper going on. Now when you get to these pieces here, this flap is 5 inches wide, so your pattern paper is going to be 4 7/8 by 5 7/8, and that's going to maintain your beautiful borders. So I'll just go ahead and add this now. And remember, this is going to be on the inside of the book, so I'm making sure to choose very complementary patterns. So I just picked this beautiful non-contrasting diagonal check, and that is going to pair beautifully with that mustard with the kind of organic shaped dot. And so I'm just going to add that here on the inside. Remember, you have to cover the insides of those flaps as well. So what we have is the front cover here. It will open, and then I have that flap. So imagine how much more space you're going to have to finish this book. And this is a great pattern if you're going to cover it with a picture, because you can just see that you're going to get quite a lot of that pattern showing around it. Okay, so here's the front. So this will open this way, and then you've got that beautiful diagonal check with the dot. And then I want to put my floral on this side, because it's going to match the page that is next in the book. Okay, so that is all for the 2 pages. What you want to do is have at least 3 of each to make the nice, generous, chunky book. I have some ideas to bring in some additional pages for this, so we may revisit this design again while we're having our stash series. But here are the 2 pages. Now, because I am using this collection out of season, I did not have the journal cards that went with the collection to add to my pockets. So what I did was I used the offcuts as I was working along. I saved these patterns and also the offcut of the blue. Made some additional inserts for these pockets. Not only does it give you a lot of additional space to finish your book, but it helps it to be much weightier and chunkier and more sturdy. I did finish the backs of these as well. So my first insert is 5 by 5, and the pattern paper is 4 7/8 by 4 7/8. I'm just going to mix and match these throughout the book so that I don't have all the same patterns winding up on the same set of pages. So I did this when I had all the rest of the pages done. This one is 4 by 5, so 3 7/8 by 4 7/8 is the pattern paper for this one, and I just love that gold foiling. This is very boho inspired. I absolutely love it. I've already prepared the remaining pages, so now you can see why I swapped out that floral, because I wanted it to match this one here. So all these pages will open and be kind of a 2-page spread, and I want all of those patterns to coordinate. And so I just went through those papers in the collection and picked out the ones that I thought were definitely going to work for non-holiday projects. So this one has beautiful daisies, 2 more of those inserts. This one has blue. This pattern was the inspiration for my floral arrangement for the cover, and you'll see that in a bit. So here's another flap. This was a very nice way to utilize a lot of those really larger patterns that I would normally not get to use because I do a lot of layering, and so it wouldn't show a lot of what that pattern was about, but since I can have the whole thing, it makes me really happy to get to use it. So the next set of pages is that beautiful brown with the teal, and then I finished the pocket with the pink. That's kind of an orangey pink, so I think that works really well. And like I said, I mixed and matched all of those inserts so that I didn't have all the same patterns on the page. So what I want to do now is just probably take the inserts out for a minute because I don't want them to be in the way while I'm punching holes. And it is a good idea to use a crocodile while you do this, just so that you can get enough strength to get through multiple layers of the paper. And remember, our cardstock is 80 pounds, so you definitely want a good pair of hole punches for this. And I wrote on the top where I punched the holes. So I went in 1/4 of an inch from the outside, and that will be enough for the rings to operate smoothly. I came in 1 inch from the top and 1 inch from the bottom, and then the third one I put right in the middle, right at 3. I can just hold this up and go ahead and punch all my holes. I plan to use this design many more times in the future, so I'll just hang on to this. And because I wrote the word or the numbers on the top, I'll remember which side to keep up, because even if you don't get it exactly perfect, you can get each one the same, and that will count just as well. So I'm going to go ahead and punch these, and then I will rejoin you when I'm ready to finish the cover. Okay, so you can see I have all of those holes punched now, and before I put this book on the rings, I'm going to go ahead and put some of the paper layers on the cover. Now I punched these holes first because firstly I did not want the bulk of the next layer getting in the way of my crocodile, and also I don't want to center my raised section in the middle of the book right to left, because those rings are gonna effectively kind of neutralize that last 1/4 of an inch. So I'm going to center my raised section in between the holes and the side of the book, and then from top to bottom it will be centered that way as well, and it won't look like it's shifted to the left. So here's that same blue cardstock. I put that up on a foam spacer. There's just a nice big border of that beautiful yellow showing. I might pull this a little closer just so that I can see to get it straight. So this is going to be our first dimensional item, and then I'm going to bring back that beautiful blue with the stylized floral, and that's just going to go this way because I want my extra border this time to be on the left rather than on the bottom. So I had almost enough of this pattern to get it right in the center, but I'm gonna go ahead and add that layering pattern just to fill in this whole space. So we're back to 5 inches on this raised area. So 4 7/8 by 4 7/8 for the pattern paper, but like I said, I am going to fill the rest in with this layering pattern. So this is another beautiful kind of mustardy yellow. It's very sweet and boho inspired, and I'm going to add it on the left because this is going to help neutralize a little bit of that background when we go ahead and add our layering flowers in our sentiment. So it's okay to go ahead and put the rings in now. These are just regular standard binder rings, and these are 1 inch. I think if you had more pages than the 3 flap pages and the 3 pocket pages, you might consider upgrading to a larger size. I have also seen many binder rings in nice colors, so if you could find ones that coordinate, that would be nice. We're just going to use these silver ones, and then I'll add some trim to the side, and that will help to cover it up a little bit. But these just snap right into place, so that's pretty easy. Rather than using that spiral binder, we just went ahead and bound it this way. So I hope that helps those of you who reached out to me and asked me to show this with the rings instead. So because I'm not using the journal cards that came with this collection, I did just want one special little image, and I went through my stash of journal cards and I found this one. I clipped it out with a tag shaped die just so that I could remove the wording from the rest of the tag. It had a different floral, but I thought that wood grain went really well, and it's such a sweet kind of sentiment on here, and I think that's perfect for a memory book or a scrapbook or a folio. So I do want to go ahead and add that over top of this doily. Once again, we're just neutralizing a little bit of that background, and this also helps to kind of lighten it up a little bit. So I'm just going to add this here, and the tag itself was not quite wide enough for the tag die to keep the stitch line going around. I don't know if you can see that here, but I'm going to just go ahead, cover that with our pretty floral. So like I mentioned, I was inspired by this blue pattern. It had the mustard yellow and then kind of a peachy pink. So I had these flowers that I had created with my Altenew layering flowers. I don't know if you remember back over the summer I picked up this die, and we had a lot of fun creating different color combinations, and so I think these go really well with that pattern. So the pink pattern, the pink cardstock I had available to work with was not quite peachy enough, so I just went over it with my Tea Rose marker. This is a Spectrum Noir marker CR2, and it just took a little bit of the brightness off of it and made it a little bit more vintagey and slightly more orangey, and so now I think it works really well together. Let's go ahead and put the trim on now so that we won't be getting caught on that flower arrangement. And I've just picked a couple from my stash. This is a checkerboard satin and a diamond satin. These both came from really reasonable ribbon. I just pulled the colors from this collection, and so this is kind of a taupey gold. I think it kind of acts as a neutral to accent the blue, and so you would be thinking more trim is better, and I would normally agree with you, but I would say that you could probably keep this at 2, one of each color on each ring, just because when you go to open the book, it's just not going to function properly if you overload these rings and take up all of that room with the bulk of the ribbon. So I'm going to do 2 on each ring, and I will alternate which one goes in the front just so that it looks like there's more on there. And go ahead and cut your trim at an angle so it won't fray, and I'll just go ahead and do that now, and then I'll jump back in when I have this all done. Okay, so here's that trim added to the rings, and it is so hard to restrain myself when I'm working with beautiful ribbons like these, but I really think you will be much happier if you don't overload those rings with trim, because your book is just going to work a whole lot better. So let's go ahead and add our flowers now. So I have all these layered up with a little bit of die cut foliage. Here are some loopy twine bows, and I finished the inside. I finished the center of the larger flower just with a brad because I had one in my stash, and like I mentioned, I'm trying to get through more of the things I already have on hand so that I can make room for new things. So I just finished the center of that flower. This is a fairly flat arrangement, and so it works out really well to have my ribbon trim here because I don't think it would look nice if I put my bow behind there. So just go ahead and add that with my hot glue. Careful to not cover up those words with the flowers. So that is a nice way to anchor that corner. I can probably come in here and just lift these up a little bit. I didn't shape them, but you can just get a little bit of dimension by pulling up the layers a little. Okay, so I do want to also add a couple of these sweet little charms, and rather than on the top, we don't really have a lot of room, I'm going to anchor them here, and that will help to offset the bulk of that larger display. And so I am going to add these with hot glue. As I do, and just go ahead and press the string into that hot glue. I'll cut the excess trim off and then finish that with a beautiful vintage button. This is a good time to come back in and add our inserts. So let's put these in here now so that we can have this book all nice and finished on the inside. The next set of pages had the white floral background, and then the very last pocket is going to have the daisies and the gold foil. And this adds an incredible amount of bulkiness and sturdiness to this book. See how nice and thick that is? So last but not least, I do want to just add a couple of sequins, and then our book will be finished. So if you enjoyed this tutorial, make sure you come back Friday because we have a lot more inspiration coming in our Crash Your Stash series. If you are interested in the book with some additional page types in it, just let me know in the comments because I'm kind of excited about building on the space. And this is really the whole idea of this series, is being able to take some really good bases and show how versatile they can be by switching out the paper collections or the theme or the season, and then maybe even making a few small changes to make it even more of a unique project. So here are our beautiful sequins. I'm putting these on with a little bit of Tombow, and that will finish the cover. Okay, so let me know in the comments if you want to see more videos like this where we crash our stash and make room for new collections. Make sure you give me a big thumbs up for this tutorial. You can find links for all our social media sites in the description below. And as always, I'm wishing you a happy and productive day, and I thank you so much for watching. Bye.